Chain Reactions is an exploration of Tobe Hooper's cult classic from the 70s, featuring never-before-seen outtakes and interviews with the likes of Stephen King and Patton Oswalt. Dan is here from Nancy Boys. Now, Chain Reactions is, I think, first of all, the title, I think, is a brilliant title for this, because this is obviously a documentary which explores and gets people's reactions of the movie. The director, first of all, Alexandre Philippe, who did Lynch Oz, which I was really fascinated by, because I'm a big David Lynch fan. I'm guessing you're a David Lynch fan.
I am, but I haven't seen that. So
it's really good.
I might go back to that.
Absolutely brilliant. Because I think if you're a fan of David Lynch, you're going to like it anyway, probably, because it features a lot of stuff you probably wouldn't have even known about.
I mean, that probably sums up this review, right? It's one of those things. This is such a niche thing that's like, if you don't like Texas Chain Saw Massacre, there's really not much point in you watching this. And it's no real shade on the director, whether you like it or not. I think, like, you could watch it and go, yeah, it was well made, but ultimately it's going to be a complete waste of time.
I guess so. But also, you're getting people's... It's quite insightful because you're hearing people's own experiences rather than just stuff about the film itself. So people are telling stories, which I found really fascinating and quite different actually to a normal documentary.
I really liked it for that reason, exactly that. I think it wasn't like, here's just some load of trivia about them. It's not like a making of. It was quite soulful, actually, a lot of it. It was something that was quite poignant and quite sweet. I still think, I mean, it's still a very niche thing to sit and watch. It's a bit like Room 237, which is the one about The Shining. Like, some people might find that interesting, but if you're not a fan of the film, that would reduce the appeal quite a lot. Because I'm going to be quite positive on this because I love the original. I don't think it's just something that you're going to sit and watch on a Saturday night with a bucket of popcorn, though. It's like
no, definitely. And when you think about the fact that this film, I mean, Texas Chain Saw Massacre is 50 years old. I cannot believe that, largely because the effect that it still has on people. I mean, I haven't seen it for a few years, but I'm going to dip back into it because I want to see the Blu-ray version, because I think cinematically, visually, I think that film, there was elements of it that I completely overlooked. I mean, they talk about that in this documentary, the fact that, you know, there are certain scenes where you see the woman walking up to the house and the camera is kind of following her, but you see the blue sky. And I found that really interesting because you don't really think about the beauty of Texas Chain Saw Massacre. You think of the horror, don't you?
Well, it's a funny one, right? Because I think there's a whole segment actually on the kind of the quality of the film, and it's the Australian woman that's talking about like the washed out look of it. That was my experience growing up. So I got a copy of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre from my Austrian pen friend who came to stay with us in the late 90s. And she brought a copy with her because I'd said, oh, if you have it over there, can you get it for me? So my experience has always been seeing that film on VHSs and like, similar to her, right? You always see it on either a pirated copy or a degraded copy or something that's not optimal.
And it kind of makes it more scary, doesn't it? Because it's what you can't see. We talked about that on another review. It's what you can't see. Sometimes it's more disturbing because it's the image in your head that is worse than what it is. I mean, with this, obviously, it's terrifying anyway.
Well, it had that proper dirty amateur look to it, which just added to the scariness. I think, you know, a lot of horror films are like that, where that kind of sketchy, the way it looks a bit like it's been produced, adds to the kind of, because it almost feels like that someone said in the documentary, it feels like it's been made by a psychopath, referring to Tobe Hooper, like it's a psychopathic film made by psychopaths, and it feels like that. And if you read about the production of it.
And when you think about Tobe Hooper, because you think of Poltergeist, Salem's Lot, what he went on to make, obviously more commercial and less... I wasn't going to say less disturbing. They're still disturbing in their own way. But with this, my God. I mean, actually, you don't see a lot of gore in Texas Chain Saw Massacre, and they talk about that in the documentary.
It's family-oriented. You've actually got two families. Like, you've got the family of Sally and Franklin, and then you've got the Sawyers, as they're called. And, you know, I think that was someone pointed that out. There is a bit of a weird family angle to it. Like, it's just a very f***ed-up version of your nuclear family, even, you know, with Leatherface as a mum. I think in a way that's what I liked about it, is it did just kind of, it made me love the film a bit more, actually. I think there is a lot of art to it and a lot of commentary that maybe I hadn't appreciated. Because I get really wound up here. A lot of people always say that they prefer the remake, and I want to scream because I'm like, it was so bland and so like slick, and
I liked it. But I thought it was quite well done, and it did disturb me a little bit. I mean, when I first saw it, but you can't compare the two really.
I mean, it's just you're comparing like this weirdly made, low budget, like product of like how it was made thing to a very Hollywoody production of a horror movie. Like they're just not. You can't compare them.
And also, when you think about the original, what makes it disturbing is that there is that sympathy, and people talk about that in the documentary, that you kind of sympathise with the characters. Well, to an extent. Is that right to say that? I don't know. Probably not. It makes it sound like I'm a serial killer. But you can understand where the torment comes from, maybe, because it's so dysfunctional.
There's that whole scene where Leatherface is obviously freaking out and running through the house like, this is new to me. Like, why are people coming? They're not going out necessarily and murdering people.
Like a panic attack, isn't it? And
And
absolutely. Thank you for being so eloquent, because I could not explain what I was thinking there. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because that nails it.
Well, they're all intruders, right? Actually, when you think about all the characters, and I mean, it's Florida that has this whole stand your ground rule about you can basically kill someone if they're on your land. But the first three characters certainly are entering the house uninvited. And they get killed because of it. And then the other ones are kind of on their land, like scooting about with a flashlight in the middle of the night in the dark. So, yeah, there is a bit of a weird kind of American commentary on it. It's just taken to the nth degree.
Because they're in their own bubble in that house.
That whole scene with the hitchhiker where he's doing his best to be sociable in the way that he knows best, but all he can talk about is stun guns and like head cheese and killing cows, like, because that's all he knows. And I guess it's that layer of stuff that the documentary kind of was like, you're like, oh yeah, like there is more to it. It's not a standard slasher. It's way more artful than that and has a lot more to say.
And I think it's that reason that makes this so great for fans of film analysis, because people are talking about stuff in detail, but like I say, they're also, telling stories of their own experiences and why they love the film. And it's not necessarily what you think it's going to be either. Because it's, they're not just talking about the cinematography or, the performances. They're talking about what touched them, what made them so disturbed by it.
Yeah, because none of them were really talking about the filmmaking, right? It was literally all about how did this affect me? I think I forget the Japanese director's name now, but I found his section really touching because it made you just think, God, like cinema is so impactful. Like it changed his life. Like seeing that film made him go, I want to do that. I want to go and make films.
And then he made Audition. It's like, wow, that's really inspired by something, isn't it? To make something as horrific as Audition. Have you seen Audition?
Yeah, I have, a long time ago. It's not what I've wanted to rewatch because it was just... But yeah, and that's that's because he was going to go and see a Charlie Chaplin movie and walked into the wrong screening or whatever it was. And yeah, it really made me appreciate the film. And for you to watch 5 video essays one after the other, I thought it would be a lot more wearing than it was. But each of those stories, I think, save for maybe the last one, was enough. And I think genius for saving Stephen King till the 4th slot, because it was like a big burst of energy of like, holy shit, it's Stephen King. Like, we're going to find out what he thinks about it, which I thought was a coup.
I agree, because I think if this had been an hour, I think it would have been more enjoyable, because it does run out of steam a little bit. No, I'm not saying that, that last person or the latter people, they didn't contribute, because they certainly did. But I think it's just like, okay, I've heard enough now.
Slightly indulgent, right? There were definitely things I'm like, we don't need to hear this. Like, we get the point. And they probably could have cut some of her out. But surprisingly, I love there's an Australian woman that talks about the parallels with Australian filmmaking, which is very niche in terms of a point to be made. But it made sense to me. And again, it was kind of like, that's your view of it. My whole soulfulness about this film is watching this with my Austrian pen pal in the late 90s. And, that for us in the UK, that film was banned until I think the 2000s. So there was that kind of illicitness. And it is all those personal stories that made it really interesting and how it affected people.
Absolutely, you're right. Because, I first saw this on VHS and it was grainy and there were flickers and you couldn't see half the picture. And that did make it disturbing. I'm not saying, that's the only reason why it was disturbing, because obviously the subject matter is grim and it's gruesome. And it does a clever thing of making you experience that that grubby energy and and that darkness, and you do put yourself in their position of being in that house, and what would you do? What would you do in that situation? You can't escape, and it's horrible. It's like The Descent.
Actually, I think a lot of the actions that Sally takes are not actually that unrealistic. It doesn't follow ridiculous conventions of horror of character must go here to do this. And her reactions to it, I think, are really human. Just screaming and just wide-eyed terror.
Yeah.
Because, there's a point in the film where you're like, there's no way back from this.
And I'm thinking of London to Brighton as well. Have you seen London to Brighton? I think we talked about this before, didn't we? You need to see that, because that again is what would you do in that situation when you can't escape? And it's that whole thing of, not being able to control anything.
Yeah. I think it's a thing that a lot of horror films don't do very well is, one, they don't portray grief. So if someone dies, they move on very quickly, and they don't portray terror. People just kind of roll with the punches a bit. And then, at the end, they're sat in a blanket on the back of an ambulance waiting to be taken off. This is unhinged. Imagine this is how it would feel. And the way that she's hysterically laughing at the end is just so unusual, but so probably realistic.
And Leatherface swinging the chainsaw around as well.
Yeah.
So iconic as well, those scenes.
That amazing that cut to silence when you've gone from her screaming and him and the chainsaw buzzing to just cut. I think it's so powerful. And I think you can tell it's reignited my love for the film, because I just think it's so good and it's so unique and a product of its time.
So it's separated by chapters. So the chapters, obviously, each chapter is one person talking about why they love the film. And yes, I think that was the downside for me, was that, okay, 5, was it 5 or 6? 6?
It was 5. Yeah, it was 5.
Possibly too much. But I'm not saying, that all that information, all that content is not relevant. I think it's very relevant, and I think it was interesting. It's just that I think maybe an hour, would have been enough for me personally.
I definitely was drifting towards the end, but I was fully engrossed for a big chunk of that. I wasn't expected to be, actually. I thought, I'll watch this, and I think I was going to look at it over the weekend. I thought, I'll just watch it in the week. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure how excited I would be. The Shining is my favorite film of all time. Room 237 was I loved every minute of it. I soaked it all up. And I was like, how much of a fan of it am I of Texas Chain Saw Massacre? And one, I realized that I am a bigger fan than I thought I was. But two, they made a really good job of drawing that out.
So all the details down below on the screen as well as where you can see this film, because I haven't got the information in front of me. I can't remember when it's coming out. I know it's probably online, so you can watch it on digital platforms. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was really interesting. I love the fact that, all these people brought something different, which, had their connections to their personal experiences. I found that really refreshing, actually, for documentary, because, like I say, it's not always about that. It's about, analysing the film process and the filmmaking rather than the experiences.
Yeah, although we'll say it actually had some really good deleted scenes as well that they didn't really call out. There in the background, and there were things I've never seen, so like Leatherface playing with the lamp which is made of his face and putting makeup on. There's a lot of little Easter eggy things that they didn't call out as we're now doing a thing about behind the scenes. It was just really good B-roll. It was kind of cool.
Absolutely. So what star rating are you going for?
It's definitely a 4 for me. It's kind of caveated with that what I said at the beginning, which is this is very niche. I'd be surprised that anyone would want to watch this at leisure if they don't really like the film or that interested. But if you're interested in filmmaking or film analysis, certainly it's a 4. I'm
going for a 4 as well, and it's made me want to rewatch the original movie, like you said, which I think is the sign of a good documentary.
Yeah,
which interesting.
It brings a whole new layer of thinking to something that maybe wasn't there before.
Yes,
so good.
Good to see you, Dan. What's happening on Nancy Boys?
I am, one of my October plans was to do a wrap-up of everything coming out in 2026, and I am still planning to do it. I've just got to find the time. The main issue is I looked online at the weekend, and there's only about 3 or 4 trailers for everything else coming out next year. Once you get to Scream 7, there's no publicity. There's barely a poster. But I just think, and there's a lot of really good stuff coming in 2026, and I thought it'd be good to kind of share that, and then I'll probably do a wrap-up of all the horror movies I've seen this year in around December time as well. I'll do a bit of a ranking video.
There's a few things coming out, and we're going to see Shelby Oaks next week, which is Chris Stuckman's horror.
We are. I've heard very mixed reviews, so we'll see what that's like. I would love him to be there. I mean, I'm just thinking maybe he'll be there. You never know. It's his first movie.
We were going to do a Halloween thing. I don't know whether we're going to get time to do it, but it'd be good to actually do something. Not enough time in the day. We're too busy. I mean, we've just finished London Film Festival, which is crazy, but yeah, hopefully we'll find some time to do something.